Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3-Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. And today's date is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. This is episode 1893. Charlie Kirk, R.I.P, and how tyranny becomes entrenched. Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Loki Luck number 3, Loki Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or the Loki Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, or all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast at proton.me. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/Loki number 3. If you want to follow me, give me a little crypto love on Steemit, go there at LL number 3-podcast. Yes, and I know people are stunned what happened in Utah with a gentleman named Charlie Kirk, who's now passed at 31 years old. Horrific event, of course. And I'm going to be reading something here before I do my commentary on this matter. This one came from the Brownstone Institute. This one's entitled Charlie Kirk, May He Rest in Peace. And this was from them alone, the Brownstone Institute themselves. And as it reads here, Charlie Kirk had a gift for embracing his critics, for refuting their arguments, for harnessing their hatred. He loved debate and he loved ideas. He believed in discussion and openness and urged this country to open it up so that everyone had a place, not just those who agreed with codified claims of mainstream media. Kirk ran a nationwide debating society, building it from his foundings to a huge national presence. His talent for debate, more than any other force in the country, was responsible for President Trump winning the Gen Z vote in November. He also stood against the nation's most powerful forces, their efforts to loot the country and the squalor they inflicted. He promoted order, justice, and liberty and Christianity against the pervasive forces of lawlessness and militantism. He was also a strong supporter of the work of the Brownstone Institute. Even if our precise focus was not his, it's because he lived through the COVID years and knew the dangers and evils of totalitarianism. From universities to legacy media to Antifa to Black Lives Matter to Big Pharma, Kirk fought the most influential cartels in our midst. They noticed. The Southern Poverty Law Center put Kirk's grassroots organization, Turning Point USA, on his hate map, along with the chapters of the Ku Klux Klan. Remember, folks, the Southern Poverty Law Center are a bunch of quacks. Morris Dees was a chump. I believe he left for some sexual harassment things, but they're a bunch of quacks, okay? And I treat them like any other subversive institution, and I digress. The New York Times derided him as a right-wing influencer in their news coverage of the assassination. After he was shot, an MSNBC commentator seemingly applauded the assassination attempt, stating Kirk has been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing his sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that the people just can't say these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place. Talk about exploitation 101 and projection at the same time. They excused the violence because Kirk was effective. For years, a corporate class has funneled millions of dollars into operations and organizations designed to unravel our social fabric. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the COVID response, the trans movement, and other projects of globalist cabal sowed chaos and reaped profits. Not only did Kirk oppose those forces, but he convinced millions of young men to join his cause. That success was the most potent threat to his opponent's aim. Amid the torrent of name-calling and threats of violence, Kirk was unwaveringly brave. He was well aware of the risk he encountered, and he warned about the rising tide of assassination culture just 5 months ago. It is a cruel irony that physical violence struck him down in the process of intellectual debate, for he dedicated his career to the peaceful conflict of ideas. We can't help but notice a pattern of the culture that Kirk opposed. The 2017 congressional baseball shooting, the attempt to kill Justice Kavanaugh, the Trump assassination attempts, widespread Antifa mobs, BLM attacks, Kamala Harris raised money for the groups that burnt Minneapolis to the ground in 2020. Illinois governor and presidential hopeful J.B. Pritzker announced that Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Just yesterday, Senator Chris Murphy remarked, "You have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country." Billionaire Reid Hoffman has given tens of millions of dollars to radical left-wing causes and told backers that he wished Trump was an actual martyr. This is not about partisanship or even ideology. It's about human life and whether society can survive this onslaught of violence, whether private, public, or somewhere in between. We must expose those who fund the unraveling of our society and see that they are stopped by legal means. In the aftermath of the tragedy of Charlie Kirk's assassination, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and their allies can dedicate their resources to taking down a machine that Kirk was valiantly opposed. Still in the end, we must work toward a social consensus in favor of truth, peace, cooperation, civilized engagement, and human rights for all. That is the only answer in these deeply troubled times. Eternal rest grant unto Charlie Kirk, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. I gotta make this very clear. He was murdered for free speech. And anyone that supports it to the fullest needs to renounce it whether you agree with him or not. I had some differences with Mr. Kirk, but he has the right to speak, challenge, and have honorable debates. And you got a lot of these scumbags out there that ill-wishers thought it was funny that he got killed. And you got others who want to post about we need to reduce the Second Amendment. Anyone that believes he should get shot or hate his speech and want to take away, deprive our Bill of Rights culture of nothing more than treasonous whores, demonods, slaves. That's right. Bunch of slaves. Wear your shackles, go, yes, master, may I have another. They say benefit, go, say, how far, please. You're against our Bill of Rights culture? You are a slave. You want the government to take care of you, and you can't even do it yourselves. That's one thing I despise. I've seen these stupid, pathetic posts from these so-called experts out there that can't even take care of themselves. All this politicalization. You haven't learned a damn thing on history. You don't even recall why the war for independence in these United States occurred. Gun control. Study a little history before posting all this garbage. Politicize these pathetic. Doesn't matter what side of the paradigm you're on. The person like myself is liberty-minded. What happened here, I renounced it heavenly. What occurred? Same thing happened to Malcolm X for his free speech. whether you like them or not. People out there couldn't stand them, got taken out. You have others out there as well. Doesn't matter who they are. Even some of the individuals that had visas were criticized in Israel on an op-ed, got arrested for that. No, I renounce that. That was wrong. Because it's a natural right. That's how I see things. To suppress free speech is a double wrong. It doesn't just violate the hearer, but for the speaker as well. That was a quote from Frederick Douglass, who was an abolitionist. Right now, he's rolling in his grave just like many others. He was a victim on the war of free speech. That's just one example of Charlie Kirk. Like I said before, whether you like him or not, his free speech got violated. Yours could be next. He's been terminated for it. And anyone wants to support that? Thought it was a great? You just cursed yourselves. And I digress. That's one thing I gotta say, because it's been happening not just here in these United States, but around the world. I find this unacceptable. We can say it was Jacobin orientated, funded by someone bigger. May his soul be forever free. And for everyone else out there, what would Charlie Kirk say to you? Keep the movement going when it comes to our Bill of Rights culture, including freedom of speech. If you believe that compromising the Second Amendment or terminated because of crimes, those are two separate entities. You're going to combine them with both. It wasn't the freedoms or liberties that got him to his predicament. It's people that hated what he said. That's my intake on this. If you don't want to follow me after this, that's fine, because I don't care. I'm principled. And I've always been like that for a very long time. 50 plus years, you can say. Do one more here. Reference to September 11th. And I was going to talk about it. And this came up, and this horrific event came about. How tyranny becomes entrenched. 9/11 and the police state's endless power grabs. It is by John Whitehead. If I'm correct, he's from the, got that name of that movement. But I'll start from here. They said it's for your safety. They said it was for order. They said it was for the good of the nation. They always said it for something good until it isn't. Nearly a quarter century after 9/11, we're still living with the consequences of fear-driven government power grabs. What began as temporary measures for our security have hardened into permanent architecture of control. The bipartisan police state architecture that began with 9/11 has been passed from president to president and party to party, each recycling the same justifications: safety, security, patriotism, to expand its powers at the expense of the citizenry. So they locked down the country for our safety. They expanded surveillance for our security. They rounded up anyone who challenged a narrative for the common good. They erased names, ideas, and histories to prevent offense. They forced schools to teach only what was politically correct for the children. They censored speech for our protection. They targeted dissenters to preserve peace. They militarized the streets and called it law and order. These very abuses, once denounced when carried out by the left, now cheered, defended, and excused when it carried out by the right. People who once spoke passionately about truth, freedom, and faith have now fallen silent in the face of justice, or worse, convinced themselves that nothing is wrong. The very force that should be warning against tyranny are instead excusing it or looking away. This is the danger of double standards in politics. Every tyranny is rationalized in the moment by its chorus of defenders. But history teaches that what goes around comes around. If you justify it now, you'll have no defense when the tables turn. Yet, time and again, the lies we tell ourselves make it possible. The cult of personality, the blind loyalty to party, the belief that our side can't be the villain. It never ceases to amaze how far people will go to excuse the actions of their favorite tyrant, even when those actions are the very things they once swore to oppose. The pattern to justify tyranny is an old as power itself. Man, I'm being sorry to get a little bit passionate here, folks. Every abuse comes wrapped in the same excuse. We had to do it. After 9/11, Americans told the Patriot Act and mass surveillance were necessary to prevent terrorism. The result was a spiraling security state that tracks every phone call, every online search, every purchase, every justification was security. The cost was freedom. Under Obama, drone warfare and the prosecution of whistleblowers were defended as keeping America safe. The president even claimed the power to assassinate U.S. citizens abroad without trial. The result was an unaccountable government acting as judge, jury, executioner. The justification was safety. The cost was due process. During the COVID-19 pandemic, lockdowns and mandates were imposed in the name of public health, laying the work down for a nanny state empowered to micromanage every aspect of our lives, where we go, what we buy, who we see. The result was government claiming control over every aspect of daily life. The justification was saving lives. The cost was the right to govern our bodies. Under Trump, the script is familiar. National Guard deployments in American cities are justified as restoring order. Sweeping surveillance is framed as protecting communities. Crackdowns on dissent are defending as stopping criminals. Mental health roundups of the homeless are justified as helping the vulnerable. Militarized patrols on city streets are justified as cleaning up the streets. Turning ICE into a roving army of lawless thugs is justified as protecting citizenship. Censorship and efforts to sanitize American history are now being lauded by the same voices that railed against cancel culture. The same logic has taken a deadly turn abroad. At Trump's direction, the U.S. carried out a series of preemptive military strikes this year against Iran's nuclear sites, against Houthis in Yemen, and most recently against what the administration claimed was a drug trafficking boat off the coast of Venezuela. The White House has justified these deadly attacks carried out without congressional approval or constitutional authorization as part of the president's unilateral war-making authority. This, too, is part of the bipartisan police state architecture built after 9/11, when presidents claimed open-ended authority to wage preemptive war without meaningful congressional oversight. As always, the justification is order, safety, and patriotism. The cost is truth, justice, and freedom. And what makes Trump and those who came before him especially dangerous is not merely their willingness to wield power, but the eagerness of their enablers to excuse and defend it at every turn. History shows that bullies and strongmen can only rise when mobs rally to their side. A tyrant's greatest weapon is not his fist, but the crowd that cheers him on. Intimidates his critics and convinces himself that might makes right. The machinery of authoritarianism always need a chorus of defenders, and today that chorus is louder, more organized, and more dismissive of constitutional limits than ever before. People imagine tyranny is only tyranny when the other side does it. When their side does it, they call it leadership. They call it patriotism. They call it protection. But the abuse doesn't change. The party label does. Wrong is wrong. Every new regime that seizes power promises it will use extraordinary authority only for good, and every regime without exception uses its trenches itself at the expense of liberty. Every generation tells itself the same lies to excuse the same abuses. The double standard is breathtaking. Tyranny doesn't change depending on who carries it out. Yet partisan convinced themselves it does. They say it's different this time, it's necessary, it's for us. In truth, the only difference is who holds the whip. You cannot defend freedom by defending tyranny when your side is in power. You cannot preserve liberty by cheering for its destruction. You cannot accept constitutional limits to shield you tomorrow if you discard them today. If you want liberty, you must defend it consistently, even when it restrains your own party, your own leader, your own side, especially then. What you excuse today will be used against you tomorrow. As it makes clear in my book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People and its fictional counterpart, the Eric Blair Diaries. It does not matter whether the abuse comes draped in red or blue. It does not matter whether it's cheered by the right or justified by the left. Tyranny, once excused, becomes entrenched. That's from the Rutherford Institute, by the way. He is the founder and president. And he's absolutely correct. And it's so odd. People want gun control, talk about gun control now from Charlie Kirk. And they haven't learned a damn thing what happened on 9/11. On a down-to-earth scale, that is. Foreign policy and firearm-free zones. It failed. So people who want tougher gun laws, you haven't learned a damn thing about 9/11. And of course, on other episodes, I tell people the New World Order agenda, who it benefits. Yeah, we go, and I question everything, how the 3 buildings came down by 2 airplanes. I understand that. But I'm just going, what happened, 9/11 was a road to tyranny, and you still got the same tinkleberries out there. All proclaim the political geniuses. Red, blue, always get screwed, right? You got to always think liberty, folks. And when you read our Declaration of Independence, one of the main ideas tells to the people of their new nation, or not new nation, but Federation of States, never trust the government. The only way to fight the real war on terror and tyranny is to defend it with our Bill of Rights culture. With no exceptions. No such thing as this day and age, my friends. When you trust the government, you failed history. I would love to hear from you if you disagree. Even once you agree, that's fine. I like to hear all sides. Bring it. I would love to hear from you. And that's it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. I'll leave the episodes of these 2 articles on my page. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/LookYouLuck3. If you want to follow me, give me a look at Crypto Love on Steemit. You can find me at LL3-Podcast. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Till next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.